Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that is absolutely crucial for raising emotionally healthy kids.
Yeah.
And that's really understanding, their inner world, their well-being, their sort of, I've heard it called an emotional cup.
Yeah, the emotional cup metaphor.
Yeah.
I love that one.
So, as parents, as caregivers, we're constantly, in these daily interactions, and some of them are big moments, and a lot of them are just these little things,
Right.
but they all add up.
They do.
And, they either fill that cup up or sometimes without us realizing they kind of drain it a little bit.
It's true. It can be both ways.
Yeah. So today, what we want to do is really dig into 5 common parental behaviors that can really drain that emotional reserve.
Yeah, and we want to equip you with the tools to kind of shift those behaviors so that you can prevent draining your child's emotional cup.
Right.
And this isn't just for new parents.
Right.
This is for anyone who's raising children,
Yeah.
toddlers, teens, adult children.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to see how these dynamics play out at different stages of development.
It really is. So let's start by defining this whole emotional cup concept a little more clearly.
Sure.
So, imagine it as like a child's internal reservoir of, feeling safe and loved and worthy
Yeah, and seen and heard.
and seen and heard. Yeah.
All of those things that really contribute to a solid sense of self.
Exactly.
And when that cup is full, kids tend to move through the world with more confidence, resilience, a general sense of well-being.
Right.
They're able to regulate their emotions better.
Yeah.
They're able to cope with challenges.
Right.
And when it's low,
Right.
that's when you see a lot of those behaviors that we as parents find challenging.
Right. So the tantrums, the outbursts.
Meltdowns, acting out,
Right.
withdrawing, anxiety,
Yeah.
low self-esteem, all of those things.
So it's so interesting that, we have such a direct impact on how full their cup is.
We do. It's a huge
Mhm.
responsibility.
It is. So let's get into, kind of the meat of this and talk about where those leaks are coming from.
Yeah.
Where are we inadvertently creating these little holes in their cups?
Yeah.
So the first one we want to talk about is something that I think a lot of well-meaning parents do.
Right.
And that's, constantly pointing out the flaws and kind of setting these expectations that are just maybe a little too high.
Yeah, and this comes from a good place.
Right.
We want our kids to succeed. We want them to be the best that they can be.
Right.
But sometimes that desire can translate into too much criticism
Right.
and an unrealistic standard for them to meet.
And, we've all had that inner voice where, they do something and you're thinking, oh, they could have done that better.
Right.
Or, why did you do it that way?
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, that comes out.
It does. We're human,
We are human.
and we're not always perfect.
But, thinking about phrases like, why can't you be more like your brother? Or you never seem to get this right.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Those kinds of comparisons and generalizations,
Right.
can really chip away at their self-belief.
Absolutely. They internalize that,
Yeah.
and they start to believe those messages about themselves.
So it's almost like we're creating this inner critic.
We are. We're giving them the script for their inner critic,
Yeah.
and that can be really damaging.
And so what happens then, when we do the opposite?
Well, when we use positive reinforcement and we focus on their effort,
Right.
not just the outcome, that helps them develop a sense of self-efficacy,
Yeah.
which is that belief in their own ability to succeed.
Okay.
They're not so afraid of failure.
Right.
They're not worried about messing up because they know that even if they do, they're still loved and supported,
Right.
and they can learn from their mistakes.
So instead of those kind of, critical remarks, what are some phrases that we can use that really kind of build them up instead of tearing them down?
So instead of focusing on the mistake, you could say something like, I see how hard you worked on this.
Right.
Let's take a look at it together and see what we can learn.
Yeah.
That validates their effort,
Yeah.
and it offers support.
Right.
And when they do make mistakes, you can frame it as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
You could say something like, mistakes are part of learning.
Right.
What can we try differently next time?
Okay.
That helps them see that it's okay to mess up.
Right.
It's part of the process.
Yeah. It's not about being perfect every time.
It's
about trying your best and learning from those experiences.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so that's a really powerful shift, I think,
I think so too.
to think about. So what's another way that we might be inadvertently, draining that cup?
So another big one is lack of quality time and emotional connection.
Oh, that's a huge one.
It is.
Especially, in today's world.
In today's world with all the distractions.
Right. We're all busy.
We are. We're all so busy.
We're all, running around doing a million things.
Yeah, and we're often on our devices.
Right.
Even when we're with our kids, we might be physically present, but not mentally or emotionally present.
Yeah.
And kids pick up on that.
You do.
Yeah.
And you were talking about before how sometimes a kid's behavior, when they're acting up or having a tantrum, it's not always just about wanting attention.
Right.
It's about wanting connection.
It's a deeper need.
Yeah.
It's a need to feel seen and heard and valued.
Right.
And when they don't get that, they act out.
So they're saying, "Hey, notice me.
Yeah.
I need you."
I need you.
Yeah.
I need to feel connected to you.
Right. So for those of us who are really, busy and we have all these demands on our time,
Right.
what are some things that we can do to really, make that connection?
Well, it doesn't have to be a huge chunk of time.
Right.
Even just 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
Where you put your phone away.
Okay.
You make eye contact. And you really listen to them.
Yeah.
Ask them about their day.
Right.
Ask them what they're thinking about.
Right.
What they're worried about. What they're excited about. Just really show genuine interest in their world.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference.
So being present.
Being present.
Putting the phone away.
Putting the phone away.
And really listening.
And really listening.
Yeah. Okay, great. And, bedtime is also a really nice time.
Bedtime's a great time.
Connect.
It is. It's a natural time to wind down and connect.
Yeah. So doing like a little emotional check-in.
Yeah, how are you feeling?
Right.
What's on your mind?
Anything you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, let's move on to another way that we might be accidentally, diminishing their cup,
Sure.
and that's dismissing their feelings.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've all probably been there where, we want to kind of make things better, so we say things like, "Oh, you're fine. Stop crying. It's not a big deal." Or "It's not a big deal, you'll get over it."
Right.
But those kinds of phrases, when you think about it, are really invalidating.
They are. They're telling the child that their feelings aren't important,
Right.
that they shouldn't be feeling what they're feeling.
Right.
And that can have some long-term consequences.
So what are some of the things that, might happen if we do that too often?
Well, they might start to suppress their emotions.
Okay.
They might start to think that their feelings aren't valid.
Right.
And they might have trouble regulating their emotions later on.
Yeah. Because they haven't learned how to cope with them.
Exactly. They haven't learned how to identify them, how to express them,
Right.
how to manage them.
So what can we say instead?
Instead of dismissing their feelings,
Yeah.
try validating them.
Okay.
You could say something like, "I see that you're really upset.
Right.
Do you want to tell me about it?"
Yeah.
Or, "That sounds like it was really frustrating for you."
Okay.
You're not necessarily agreeing with them.
Right.
You're just acknowledging their experience.
Okay.
And that can make a world of difference.
So it's about creating that safe space for them to feel whatever they're feeling
Exactly.
and know that it's okay.
It's okay to feel your feelings.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, let's talk about another one, which is, I think, a big pressure point for a lot of kids these days.
Yeah.
And that's just being overscheduled.
Yeah, the packed schedules.
Yeah.
So much pressure to succeed.
Right. So we have, they're in school all day,
Right.
they have homework,
Right.
they have extracurricular activities.
Sports, music lessons,
Right.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then they have very little time for free play.
Right. And free play is so important.
It is. It's essential for their development.
Yeah. So why is that?
That's where they develop their creativity,
Okay.
their problem-solving skills, their social skills.
Okay.
It's a time for them to just be kids,
Right.
to explore their interests,
Right.
to use their imagination.
Try to de-stress.
Yeah.
To relax. And, we as parents, we're always so proud of our kids when they accomplish things.
Right.
And we want to, put them in all these things because we want to give them all these opportunities.
Right.
But we also have to remember that downtime is so important.
It is. It's essential for their well-being.
Yeah. So how do we find that balance?
It's about being intentional.
Okay.
It's about making sure that they have time in their schedule for unstructured play.
Okay.
It might mean saying no to some activities.
Right.
It might mean leaving some afternoons open.
Right.
It might mean just letting them choose what they want to do.
Yeah.
The key is that it's child-directed.
Right.
It's not something that's imposed on them by adults.
Right. Okay, great. All right. So the last one we want to talk about is something that can be really hard for parents to do.
Yeah.
But it's so important.
It is.
And that's apologizing when we mess up.
Yeah.
You know, we all make mistakes.
We do. We're human.
We're human. We lose our temper sometimes.
Yeah.
We say things we don't mean.
It happens.
We make bad judgment calls.
Right.
But it's so important for our kids to see us apologize.
It is. It models accountability.
Right.
It shows them that it's okay to make mistakes
Right.
and that it's important to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah. So how can we apologize in a way that's meaningful to our kids?
Well, the first step is to acknowledge your mistake.
Okay.
Don't make excuses.
Right.
Just own it.
Yeah.
And then express remorse.
Okay.
Tell them that you're sorry for the way that your actions impacted them.
Okay.
And then, if it's appropriate, offer to make amends
Okay.
or to change your behavior in the future.
So, for example, you could say, I got really frustrated earlier and I raised my voice.
Right.
That wasn't fair to you and I'm sorry.
That's a great example.
Or you could say, I made a mistake in how I handled that situation and I'm going to try to do better next time. Yeah. So those are really good examples of how to do that.
They are.
So we've talked about a lot of different things that can drain a child's cup.
We have 5 key areas.
5 key areas. So now let's talk about, what can we do to fill it up?
Yeah.
So what are the takeaways here?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is to be mindful.
Okay.
Be mindful of your words.
Right.
Be mindful of your actions.
Yeah.
And be mindful of your reactions.
Yeah.
And then remember those 5 key areas that we talked about.
Right. So praise effort, not just outcome.
Right.
Make time for quality time.
Even if it's just a few minutes.
Right. Validate their feelings.
Don't dismiss them.
Right. Give them plenty of time for free play.
Unstructured time.
Right.
Time to just be kids.
And apologize when you mess up.
Be accountable for your actions.
So it sounds like even making small changes can have a big impact.
It can. It's
Yeah.
about consistency.
Right.
It's about showing up for your kids day after day
Yeah.
and letting them know that you love them
Yeah. That you're there for them.
unconditionally.
Yeah. So this has been a really fascinating deep dive, I think, into a really important topic.
I agree.
One that we could probably talk about for hours.
We could. There's so much to say.
Oh, I hope that as you're listening, you're thinking about your own interactions with your kids.
Right.
And, maybe which of these 5 areas is resonating with you the most.
Yeah. What are you already doing well?
Right.
And what could you maybe do a little bit differently?
Yeah.
What's one small step you can take to fill your child's emotional cup today?
That's such a good question to think about.
It is.
So how can being more aware of these dynamics, lead to deeper connections and more fulfilling relationships with our kids?
That's the ultimate goal.
It is. It is. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive today.
It was a pleasure being here.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds good.